All right. Well, welcome, Bryan. I am so excited to have you here today and just to hear your story and just your passion for people who have a need for what you offer. So tell us about yourself.
Well, when it all started just by happenstance in 1986. We had a family member who was lost to cancer, um, and that was my mother's boyfriend's mother, and she died of pancreatic cancer. And when my mother's boyfriend went to a fish market one day, they told her about Essiac tea, which seems like an unusual place to learn about Essiac tea, but they were actually very good friends with the person that developed the tea, or the persons that developed the tea. And so we told people about Essiac tea in a very casual manner back in 1986, and really didn't think too much about it. 7 or 8 months later, we ran into both of them, and they were both in remission.
Wow.
And that's what started an amazing interest in Essiac tea, because we kept sending people to this fish market. They kept getting well. Their friends would also do the same. So you can imagine an exponential growth took place in our area, where people would flood to this fish market. Now, the reason they had it at this fish market was there was 8 years of research done to develop this 8 herb formula. Originally, it had 4 herbs, but this was brought in for research in 1959 to Cambridge, Massachusetts. And with a team of 18 scientists and Dr. Charles Brusch, who was President Kennedy's personal physician, and the original nurse who did this in Canada, they all worked collectively to see, first and foremost, what each herb did, safety levels they could use each herb, and really assess this 4 herb formula, the original formula, and its effectiveness. And of course, there was room to improve. As good as it was, it could get better. And President Kennedy had a passion for medicinal herbs. He saw them as God's creation to heal. And so what he did next was, from 1959 to 1967, had 18 physicians, along with the original nurse, Reen Case. Her name spelled backwards is Essiac tea. Um, and they worked on adding herbs to this through various combinations of herbs that were tested for their potential. And when one showed potential, they would add it into the original 4 herb mix. They didn't disturb the original mix, but they would keep adding. They would tweak, see if there was a greater efficiency if they tweaked it. And in the end, what they had was something that was so effective that what we have here is unlike anything else. We stood behind this with a guarantee for 20 years as a means of really protecting the customer, because people are desperate. And we've been in that position. I had a twin brother that had ALS, and we spent $30,000 on essentially snake oil. So because of that, and at his suggestion, we decided to really make it so that that couldn't happen here. So for 20 years, we've made sure that if you use this under the condition of 6 months to use, because it takes about 6 months to really complete the process of healing. If you get there and you have it improved or in remission, we give it all back. We refuse to make a dime unless it actually works. And it's also meant, obviously, as a statement, is overall consistency, because you don't put the guarantee on something that has a marginal success, because financially that would devastate you. If you give 30% of your profits back, as high as it would be to achieve a 70% success rate, it really doesn't work, economically to do that. This has a much higher rate, and it's a result and byproduct of the research that was done all those years in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So, like I said, just to tie it back in, my mother's boyfriend went into the fish market one day. He was a fisherman, so when he dropped his fish off, they said, "We have Essiac tea." And as I said, they became friends with the researchers, because their other fish market was a half a mile south, right next to the research center in Cambridge. So they struck up a friendship as an extension of what they did. They would offer it casually at the fish market. So that's how we got introduced. What essentially happened next was, as you can imagine, as it worked, people would go to this fish market, and their primary concern was as a fish market. And so they asked if we could, take this into just do it at our house, as casual as that may sound, just get it out of the fish market because it was interfering with their business. So we did this for several years, and it became very chaotic. We used to give out these Ziploc bags that the neighbors thought was very suspect because it looked like a drug
Yes.
deal. People coming and going. We needed to streamline that to really, for our sake and everyone's sake, and that became a cancer support group that took place at my mother's restaurant. We did that for several years, and that later became something that a TV show in New Hampshire became interested in, because a couple of the people in this group were affiliated with this TV show. So they had a TV show called the Kathy Burnham Show. And they invited the whole group, the audience, the panel, and my mother was on there as well. And they talked about this, and they gave very simplistic descriptions of what they had done to get well. And many of these things were simply, just old New Englanders having a mic in the, and talking and saying, "Did you have cancer? Yes, I had this. Did you take conventional treatment? No, I didn't. Do you have cancer now? I don't have cancer now." And so what you would find is, as simplistic as it was, it really resonated in its simplicity. So we thought it was great to see Mom on TV. We were excited, but we were naive to the point where we didn't realize that this would create an explosion of demand. So I was enlisted to help fulfill that explosion. They had 1,500 people call the TV station looking for this, and we were just a small support group. So the panic set in. We had to get in touch with Dr. Brusch and say, how do we make this on a higher volume? So I got in touch with him and worked with Dr. Brusch and his best friend. We got all the equipment, the scales. I learned the whole process. And because I was younger, I was 21 at the time, I could lift the heavy bags and just be the grunt work, is, doing the weighing, and they would instruct me. And I was very unmotivated as a child. So I thought I had a good gig for the summer, and I really thought that would just be the extent of it. And here we are. It just has been a runaway train ever since, because you can't stop the success this has had for people over the years. And it's something, and it's a place I never would have expected to be into. I think I grew up in a very ignorant as to God's will. We didn't go to church, and I didn't know about God creating herbs. I didn't really have a sense of purpose and what this did. And it was kind of a delayed response. One day I just woke up, I said, "Hey, I've got this amazing thing." And I connected it to my being, and I'm like, how did this happen? And so now I just try not to screw it up. I think it's been something that's been handed to me, and I'm very fortunate to have had the guidance of Dr. Brusch, who set the tone. He set the tone on the pricing, the availability, helping the needy, and not ever changing the way this is administered, because other groups have taken out certain aspects of this or altered it to make it more commercially sellable. They figure if they take out the fresh herbs, which clean the intestinal tract and are essential, they can sell more because it's more pleasant. So they put on a store shelf, they take out the herbs, and they have a more appealing product taste-wise, but a less beneficial one, and an increase in costs that in many times is tenfold what we do now. So he did have an original company distribute this, but he cut ties because of all the commercial compromise that was taking place. And after the TV show, he designated us as the people to continue making sure available, it had to be available to everyone. So whether it be donations, whether it be price reductions, keeping it about $1 a day to use to this day. He said, you will do well because this will be a successful expansion. So you don't need to raise your prices. And he was totally ahead of the game. He knew the quality would be the thing. So like the Walmart of suppliers, we keep the price low, we sell quality. People come back, and it's just been an amazing, almost 40-year ride.
Wow, that's very special. Well, there's obviously not going to be an end to people who need this. And that's actually the sad part of the story. But the good part is that you have the integrity to offer the purest product at a price that everyone can afford. Because we have to admit, cancer has become just a gateway to pretty much being exploited with your income. And the amount of cost that is being put forth as far as what different treatments cost, what the medical treatments cost, all of it is actually very skyrocketing. And it's just very upsetting that people have to forfeit their homes just for healing. And it's also true, though, in the natural side as well. I mean, my mom went through cancer, and the expenses of different natural alternatives, or even natural physicians that would offer natural alternatives, it was very, very expensive.
Yeah,
And I respect the people who do natural alternatives, but it's also the other thing is like, okay, everyone deserves to have an income, but yet the prices, so I really love your integrity of keeping the prices to where people can actually afford the healing.
yeah. Well, Dr. Brusch, the first thing he taught us was availability. You can't save a life unless you can get this in their hands.
Yeah,
So uh, it would make us monsters to deny access to something like this. Imagine someone on Social Security has no money. I have this. You got a ton of it. And me just saying, well, you can't have it unless you pay me, blah, blah, blah. And I find that a disgusting thing that your self-interest, you know, in the beginning, we weren't as financially successful because it hadn't grown yet. So he said, you're still going to do it because it's the only way you're going to grow. So the initial hesitancy as a young person is I don't have much money and I'm giving it away and paying for it. Doesn't seem like a very good idea. Until he told me, well, it's not a good idea if you're lying, because then you get it out to people, they resent you
right.
because it didn't work. It's a dead end. The seed doesn't get planted and it goes nowhere. He goes, but this is what we say it is. And if someone gets access to this and they get well, they're going to tell the world.
Yeah,
And as a result, for very little cost, I have essentially a new employee, a paid spokesperson to tell the world and everyone around them what they experience. So because of the truth of this what would seem like a horrible business plan has become really a can't miss way of doing things because it is what we say it is.
right. So you mentioned when people have the experience of the healing that they're going to tell the world. What are some of those stories that you can share with us here of the healing that has taken place?
Yeah, I originally I wasn't sure what to expect. And also being, put into a position with such a heavy subject matter. I had no interest in health. I do think I had a certain amount of empathy for others, compassion, but I was intimidated by the possible bad aspects. This is cancer, this is life-threatening.
Right.
I took it seriously going in. Inevitably, I learned that the high success rate meant that worst case scenario presented itself very rarely. I phrase this in a way that has people, it's framed in a way that they understand the risk reward. And that's all I could do is frame it the way it is. And in the rare times that it does, usually of an understanding of what the challenge was. whether it be a time frame stage 4 advanced cancer, which does come into play. Every cancer gets more difficult to treat as you get less expectancy of time to treat it. So I find if I just give them truthful information and they realize exactly what this is and isn't, there's no resentment because we're presenting something on an even keel, and they appreciate the fact that they know relative risk of where they are individually. And so I find just by just laying it out straight, I'm comfortable knowing I'm giving the best thing possible, although it's not foolproof. People that take it for 6 months see about a 94% chance of at least improvement or remission.
Wow.
And it's been extraordinary, but that still means that, you know, 1 in 16 people I talk to are having failure. And that's a
Yeah,
big
but
part of it too. So, it's you're immersed in something that's heavy, but I just feel good that we have the best overall choice.
yeah, I so agree. Let's talk about the herbs that are in it. And yours is 8 herbs versus some of the others are only 4 herbs, if I'm correct. So let's talk about those herbs and why they're so potentially successful at getting rid of cancer or at least lessening the effect of cancer.
Yeah, well, the cancer is primarily a toxic ingestion or accumulation. And these herbs have a tremendous amount of ability to get, first and foremost, intestinal waste out of your body. Um, and what happened was the original formula, to this day, the people that have the original formula try to scare you into thinking, they do these warning campaigns that say, be careful if you don't see the trademark, it's not the original formula. And you think if you see a warning, it must have merit because it's phrased as a warning, suggesting that you're making a mistake not going to the original. But in this instance, the original 4 herb is an incomplete formula that has a lesser degree of consistency. But they read original, they bounce back thinking original equates to legitimate. And in this case, original equates to legitimate, and it equates to a legitimate, less effective formula. And they charge like 10 times as much. So this research that was done over 8 years in Cambridge took that 4 herb formula and identified some of the most, these potentiators, the highest potential of anti-cancer properties, anti-nausea properties, cleansing properties. Above and beyond the anti-cancer, there's the cleansing aspect, which is critical. There's the healing aspect of the digestive tract. So slippery elm has massive, that's why it's used in throat lozenges. That's why with my throat issue, I actually have one in right now that has slippery elm in it. It's a healing. It is the healing is done after essentially the fibrous content goes through and gets rid of systematically 3 times a day the digestive buildup. And there are anti-tumor properties. There are anti-cancer properties. There are so many different aspects of this. Essentially, it's a synergistic balance of different things that are needed to improve your immune response and clean out your body.
Yeah.
Essentially, first and foremost, it is a blood cleanse as a result of a digestive tract complete cleanse. And I mentioned the word complete because so many things, they are sold as digestive tract cleansers. And what the people don't realize is that these cleansers only get the bulk readily available amounts. And it's kind of like, I always say this, but it's like a burnt on pan. You get the scrambled eggs out with a spatula, it's an immediate thing, no problem. To get a totally clean pan, that last stuck on layer, that last couple millimeters of stuck on, that's when you got to soak it. Take a steel wool, scrub it, whatever it is to get that last layer. So if you want to get the total pristine cleansing of the pan, you've got to take the time to get the lowest volume of the eggs, but the longer term to clean them. And so essentially, your digestive tract, a lot of people will take things, and it'll be evident that they're going to the bathroom 10 times a day, telling all their friends how great it is. But they don't realize they're getting the readily available. And until your digestive tract has a completely pristine wall, it's going to be compromised. It doesn't matter whether it's a millimeter or a half an inch of digestive sludge-like buildup. It's going to compromise digestion. It's going to have this almost like sludge-like material that leaches into the bloodstream. And when it leaches into the bloodstream, essentially the body responds to toxins where they flow and they get trapped in different areas, glands, organs. So you see toxins in this sludge go to the pancreas. And as it goes there, your body has an adaptive response to grow a tumor. This was taught to me by Dr. Brusch, that the body naturally heals by growing tumors, essentially as holding cells for the toxic substance so it doesn't flow upstream to an organ or a gland and compromise the function of it. But what he explained is the magnitude of toxins has increased so much that we used to be, our ancestors never ate what we ate, so they'd have maybe minute amounts of toxins. This tumor would grow, would be a very small speck. And then what it would do next it would send out a chemical signaling, which is like a beacon to the white blood cells saying, hey, I'm here, come invade me. And so the white blood cells would receive this through the bloodstream. They'd follow the chemical signaling. They go to the white blood cells would go to the tumor, invade the tumor, and pass it naturally. But what happens now is the increased amount of this sediment that settles quickly on a tumor, we're more toxic. So you get a small element, you grow the tumor, and what happens before the signaling takes place to the white blood cells? Just another quick layer lands on the tumor. And now it's encased like an eggshell. All communication breaks down. The chemicals can't get out to inform the white blood cells that this is the location that you need to deal with. So the white blood cells can be right next to the tumor and have zero idea my next door neighbor's a tumor. So it really creates an issue in that aspect of cell signaling, but it's also the next layer that lands on the tumor is going to stimulate more tumor growth. So it's a spiraling. And the last aspect is this toxic element. When it lands on a tumor, it emits a substance similar to hydrogen peroxide, which makes like a microenvironment, like a haze around the tumor. And that's the very substance that the defense cells of the tumor live in. So now you have a stronger defense because you have toxic elements there. So what Essiac is doing is, unlike these other things that get the bulk out, but they don't get the final layer out to achieve a pristine, God needs your body to be, to not be interfered with toxic elements taking the function away. So unless it's a pristine digestive tract, which takes time, it takes months, it takes 4.5 to 6 months to complete this process. The reason is a very acute, harsh detox will be too dramatic, cause dehydration, HERC symptoms, and you won't be able to sustain it. So this is a moderate, sustainable, 3 times a day. Each time you're ingesting medicinal herbs that stay in the content, and they go through cleanse. And at the end of about 4.5 to 6 months, your body has achieved a pristine digestive tract. So now look what happens. You have digestive function skyrocketing because now you're absorbing nutrients, which makes for a stronger constitution. You also have, because there's no more of that sediment going into the bloodstream, the white blood cells that are now enhanced with nutrients aren't having to fight the toxins on the way to the tumor. They're not being compromised or diminished. Now when they get to the tumor, as your body is producing new red bloods, new blood cells, excuse me, and at the same time not having the introduction of toxins. The two things combined mean a lesser amount of toxic availability on the tumor. Essentially, it erodes over time. And when it erodes, the defense cells no longer have that microenvironment fueled by toxins, so they die off. So now what happens is all of the natural processes take place. The defense cells essentially die off because the toxic elements erode from the tumor. So now what happens is signaling takes place again in a clean bloodstream that's been nourished. The white blood cells get that direct beacon. Oh my gosh, the tumor's over there. They go there, they get direct access without the defense cells. They go in, and as God designed, break down the tumor naturally, and you pass this naturally when you go to the bathroom. That's the way God designed, but we're so conditioned to think that that this isn't the potential of the body because we've been so littered with toxins that we don't realize this is, the body heals itself naturally in the same way that it creates life naturally. We realize the miracle of life. Our bodies can create life. We all know this. We don't realize the same magnificent power to heal is part of the aspect. And it is, but we have compromised immune response because of toxins running interference. So we don't realize how powerful that is. This allows for that process to take place through thorough cleansing.
Wow, that's extremely interesting. I know everyone got quite a lot out of that as far as what you've just shared. So besides slippery elm, what are a couple of the other herbs that cause this to be so powerful in helping the healing process?
Yeah, well, blessed thistle, they all have their role. Like red clover is synonymous with estrogen-driven cancers. You're talking about certain breast cancers that are estrogen, positive. Um, these are the problem is it's an unregulated industry, so you have appropriate dosage of things. So anyone could come along and say they have Essiac. So you'll see a lot of this online, on they'll be selling on Amazon these versions calling it Essiac, taking out the sediment, which is, like I say, the dietary fiber in it, because it's a murky, ugly consistency to keep the fiber in it. So like we're just going to clean it up and make it more appealing. They take it out. It maintains shelf life on some shelf for like half year to a year because it's no longer perishable. But perishable is good. You make it yourself. It's like fresh fish, fresh bread. No problem drinking something fresh and getting it consumed in time. But what they've done is market this as a regular tea without the essential particles. And sometimes they have you heat it, which is over processing it. So they're marketing it in all these ways, and they're making a lot of sales. And as the end result of that, compromising has been a really big benefit to making money. But in the end, the only success will be repeat referrals. So they hit it, they get it quit, but they don't get the repeat referrals. The reason we're the biggest company there is we do it with referrals being the building block of what we have. But red clover, I'll revert back to that. It's like anything else. If you take half an aspirin, it's too little for your headache. If you take 2 aspirin, great job, you'll get rid of your headache. If you take 20 aspirin, you've got an overdose.
Right.
What will happen is some of these counterfeit people start Facebook groups, and they will get the medical information on overdose amounts. Too much red clover, which is not even relevant here because it's not even close to the amount we're using, which is the appropriate medicinal amount. It's equivalent of 2 aspirin. And they will scare people because when taken in high doses, it can have an adverse effect on breast cancer. So what they do is use fear mongering with herbs out of context as far as the amount. And so next thing you say, don't take that red clover, it's harmful. They steer people back to the original formula, which is less effective and cost 10 times as much.
Right.
So there's a lot of manipulation. And so we're dealing with constant accusations. I wake up backpedaling every day. You put red clover in this, you're trying to kill me. And it's like, it's actually, I show them all the scientific figures of appropriateness, dosing, how this works to deal with breast cancer stem cells, how it helps to deal with stopping uh, the estrogen from binding to cancer cells. It does it all at the levels that we have. And it's a result of 8 years of research. The appropriateness of all these levels has been fished out and is completely safe. But the internet with Essiac is unregulated, so it's like the Wild West. Make up an accusation, scare people and fearmonger, and make a lot of money. So we don't fearmonger. We actually bring the scientific data, support you with a money back guarantee, support you with the funding. If you don't have enough money, we'll deal with you financially to make sure you get it. So all the supportive things hopefully will overrule the fear mongering, the facts, the data, but it's fear can be a powerful force, and we don't always win that battle, to be honest with you.
Right. And usually, what I teach people is when you are getting ready to choose a regimen, whether it's conventional, whether it's natural alternative, whatever it is, if fear is being served by the one you are buying from or the doctor that you're listening to, if fear is part of that equation, then it's not the answer for you, because the answer for healing should never be served with fear. And
Yeah,
90% of the time, anyone who walks into a conventional doctor, usually I teach them, like, you need to be sure you're praying before you go in and just say, Lord, let no fear be spoken in that room and no untruth be spoken, and let no tests be
interesting.
ordered that are not for my benefit.
Yeah,
And so what I love with what you're saying is true, because once we get that suspicion that there might be cancer, the anxiety levels, it just goes way up. And so the ability to think clearly is not
exactly.
always easy.
Exactly. You can take someone in a feared state and remove all logical.
Yes.
And there's also something called, I think it's called first print history, where the first thing you learn about, your mind basically decides that it's true. And it's
Yeah.
very hard to reverse direction, admit you had fault, because the ego has a protection of itself that won't allow itself to be fooled or duped. It feels like it's ashamed, so to speak, in your internal dialogue. And so it's tough to get people to be sometimes that are fearful, to have a flood of emotional blood on one side of their brain, to switch to the logical side and utilize that to diminish the fear on the other side of the brain.
So
So
much so. Yeah.
it's less likely to really be inserted and influence people. But I find with patience and empathy, the empathy is the thing that allows for the connective thing as a gateway to get the logic in. We have to identify that they're fearful, that they've been played.
Yes.
Do it in a way that doesn't have a self-serving interest that, hey, they lied to you, they suck. It's no, it's, hey, I understand what you're going through. This is something that we want to encourage you. And I'm going to leave it to you to see the difference in how we approach things. And you be the judge on whether you want to go in either direction. But all we can show you is facts versus fear mongering. We'll leave it up to you. And
Right.
it's how you connect to people because they're people first and foremost.
Yes.
And they're going through this hell on earth of cancer. And so we have to sit patiently with them. Even if
Right.
sometimes they've come out swinging because they've read bad things. They've read our stuff and they suddenly convinced that we are doing they're absurd things like we added harmful components is one of the things that a Facebook page is saying, which is absurd that in 8 years of research we decide to end result add harmful components. But they just make it up. And the very statement of it said with certainty trumps all of the. I mean, I have something here I keep with me. This is a book. It's called the Essiac Report. It's basically the entire history of the research. This is how it came to be, the 4 herb formula, the 8 years of research. I mean, this is a picture of Dr. Brusch, who's on the far side. Oh, that's Ring Case. I have it backwards. Dr. Brusch is right in the corner.
Yeah.
Now, this is their research. It's all documented. They talk about the potentiating herbs being added, the effectiveness increase, and they prey on people that don't read this being
Right.
chronicled. So not everyone has the wherewithal the time to invest in that, to then, there's a sense of urgency, so they don't read the book. So in the absence of that, they prey on people not doing their research because it's timely and it's sometimes exhaustive if you've got cancer. But if you look and the deeper you're willing to actually, for your own benefit, research and see, you'll see the fact that this is all true. The 8-herb formula is the most effective. And before the money grab took place, this was written in the 1980s, before people decided on the internet to make a money grab. So things have changed. Things have
Yeah.
changed.
They have, and they will continue to cycle around because truth always seems to surface when people are truly looking for truth. It will come to the
Yeah,
top and they will learn it and they will recognize it. And
yeah,
that's what I also teach people is like when you're praying over your illness or the illness of a family member, let truth be the words that speak loudest to you. And so that
yeah.
you can understand what is truth, because you're right. There are many Essiac opportunities out there to buy from, but that's why I wanted to speak to you. I wanted to speak to you because you have the best product and you have the actual product. You have the actual product that has been researched, and the money back guarantee is a really big deal because in
Well,
cancer
thank you.
therapies, no one wants to offer a money back guarantee in cancer arenas.
Well,
That's unheard of.
that's perfect. I hate to interject here, but take that for what it's worth. 20 years. We'd be
Mhm.
exposed by now for 20 years. And what happens is the skeptics and people are going to be skeptical. They say, well, there's got to be a gimmick. I would say the same thing. If there were a gimmick, no one's ever been able to figure out the gimmick on how to do it except for us in the last 20 years. So it's obviously there's no gimmick, because if there were, you'd see other people doing it.
Yeah. And
Direct
so just really
ability.
want to encourage people to look at these 8 herbs and understand that God is the one who gave us the herbs for the healing.
Yes.
And between Genesis, where we have the trees, and by Revelation 22, where it talks about we have the leaves will be healing for the nations. We're talking about leaves that are actually healing properties
Yeah.
and healing properties. And yes, I am a firm believer in red clover. And many people just don't understand the teaching that's out there that it's very harmful if you have breast cancer. That's very, actually it's the opposite. It's just
Good.
how they want to present it. And I also want to just, you were so gracious to send me a sample, because I heard a testimony too that there are people who actually it helps with, because of the circulation improvement, because of the digestive improvement and how everything is connected, just also the improvement in blood pressure. And so we did use your sample, my husband and I will say we do call it the dirt juice because it
Exactly. It's ugly.
yeah, it's like he's like, and we're like, did you drink your dirt today? And he's like, yeah, I drank my dirt today. So that's what our pet name for it is. And it was just a sample for a couple of weeks, and it was a very good for us to trial it, especially before doing this interview with you. But I can totally see recommending all of my clients and followers to use this for 6 months. And they may say, well, Ned, I don't have cancer. It's not about cancer. It's about the cleansing effect that can take place in the body to be in the preventative stage, and to always be in the preventative stage. Because if we are always have that pristine, internal atmosphere, like you described, we're not in the cancer diagnosis stage.
Well,
We're
it's
always
funny
in
you
the
say
healthy
that.
stage.
6 months of aggression, even if you don't have anything. See, because your body accumulates enough so that it takes about 6 months of aggressive use to get rid of it. So people are like, oh, you're just trying to sell an aggressive dose, which is more gonna make more money. I'm like, no. If you do the aggressive dose, it's significant enough to take a lifetime of buildup. Then I'm saying you're free to do what you want. I'm not going to give you this thing that keeps you more dependent every day. Because it's like when you clean your house for spring cleaning, you don't need to do it the next 2 weeks, month, or so on. You've
Right.
cleaned it out completely. So I'm actually telling people something that will benefit in the long run because they will get the accelerated total cleansing and therefore not need to be dependent on it all the time. I actually sell less when I recommend a 6 month cleanse because I highly encourage people to do that, healthy or not, to really assure that they have a much lesser likelihood of developing disease. Um, After that, it's at, whatever amount your body responds to. We don't set the terms for that, but a one-time cleansing, as you said, is a massive benefit.
Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah. So everyone watching, and then we're going to save this video in our cancer course as well, because I just truly believe in herbs. I truly believe in herbs. I believe in the way you've put these herbs together specifically because of the cleansing effect, and not just for digestive, but it's also a reset for hormones. And because of all of the environmental toxins, because of the toxins on our food, so many things that we are being exposed to today are extremely disruptive to hormones. And so like I said before, I am super in love with the red clover. I think every woman should do this for 6 months and just see what happens in their marriage, see what happens in just in their skin coloring in, and just they're able to be resilient in life and just to have that strong mental focus, a strong
Yeah.
digestive system.
It's funny because it's not always super effective or evident, but a vast amount of time it is. What we found is, first things first, we funded DNA repair studies for humans, which I knew the answers to it because I've lived it. I've lived it for 40 years. I'm 60 in a few weeks, and I've realized that I've been able to hold down the fort a little bit more easily than my peers.
Yeah.
And I realized the reason for that was probably Essiac until we did human studies on Essiac a few years ago and presented in Santiago, Chile as a result of need to present internationally versus, domestically because it's really tough in the United States with certain restrictions. But 33 to 50% reduction in DNA damage was found by people who had constant low dose radiation exposure because they were X-ray technicians. So you're looking at something here that has a reparative aspect to it that's unlike anything else. And if you look at these herbs, you mentioned the red clover, you mentioned, these things. Every single one of these things, it's not that basically they're created by God. It's our job to investigate where they are, how to utilize them. And people don't realize that these shutting down of alternative practices and stuff like that. We were fortunate enough to have an alternative clinic. This came out of one alternative clinic. We should have massive research in this country, but we don't because of legislative things that happened in 1994 that really restrict or disincentivize people to do research in this country. So that's where we are. We're stuck going to other countries.
All right. I appreciate that. And just a note, Susie, you're going to have to pull this out, but for some reason, I have an app on my Zoom that's telling me I have 11 seconds left. So I have never seen that show up before. So in case we get disconnected, then jump back into this Zoom call if for some reason it kicks us out. I have no clue. Actually, it just zeroed out. So I guess we're still good. I have
Okay.
no idea where that came from. I've never seen it
I
before.
woke up with a sense of panic.
Yeah, I was like,
What
where did
is
that come
this?
from? Yeah. So,
Uh,
all right, well, let's wrap this up anyway. So, I didn't ask you, do you offer like affiliate codes or anything like that?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. My website is genuine Essiac. Genuine is the word genuine. Essiac is ESSIAC. It's the French name of the nurse Case, which is Caisse, spelled backwards. So it's genuine ESSIAC.com. And we have an affiliate page. You just click on that, and we have all the information you can imagine, testimonials. It's really everything. You can look it up, and where to access us if you have questions via email, via telephone.
Okay.
You need.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bryan, for being a part of this today. I so love your products. I so love the effectiveness of it. And I just appreciate you taking time to share with our followers, our biblical nutritionist family, that they have possibilities and it doesn't have to take your entire retirement investment to cover your cancer. And just because it can also be used just as a natural cleanse. And I'm highly in favor of people following that. So you just shared with us your website, and that was genuineessiac.com. And we'll put that on the screen. But for those of you who are listening through podcasts, it's the word genuine with the word ESSIAC.com. And we will definitely share with our followers the discount that you're offering to the biblical nutritionist family so that they can take advantage of that. Bryan, again, you and your wife, Gina, just thank you for what you do and for just protecting the integrity of a product that works and for what you're doing for people all over the world. Thank you so much.
And I gotta just take the time to thank you. This has been an outreach that I've had a few people that I've done podcasts that has accelerated the word. So thank you for creating this. We really appreciate it as well. You make it a lot easier for us to get the word out. So thank you.
You're welcome. And it is our pleasure to be able to spend this time with you. So thank you everyone for letting us share with you God's recipe for excellent health. And it always includes 3 ingredients. Number 1 is being confident in your kitchen, which would be a part of the Essiac tea. Number 2, being confident in your health, knowing God has given us the answers. It's just for us to discover them, to seek wisdom from the Lord, and then to find the ingredients that He's offered for us, which is exactly what we taught about today. But the 3rd ingredient is the most important, and that is understanding how much God loves you and desires to have a relationship with you. So thank you again for being a part of the Biblical Nutritionist family. Please think about who are the 3 people that you can share this interview with and let them know what God is up to as far as giving them answers to the situations that they're in. All right. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.